recording.
Great. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for the next
It's not a real
installation. For the next installation of the Artrepreneur series. Today we are featuring the fabulous, wonderful Sharece Sellem. She is a native of Hartford. She is a playwright, a choreographer, a director, a performing arts instructor. She is currently based out of New Haven and was trained by the American Intercontinental University's Media Production Program. She also attended the Headlong Performance Institute at Bryn, Mawr College in Pennsylvania and the Yale University Practical Approach to Directing Summer Program in 2014. Her resume is long and includes Bregamos Community Theater, Wharf Theatre, Pride Arts Center of Chicago, the Charter Oak Cultural Center, the Carriage House Theater, the Illinois Voices Theater, the Norwich Arts Center, the University of California, San Diego, and soon that list will be too long to actually read. She is also the proud founder of Vintage Soul Productions. Sharece, welcome. So glad to be talking to you.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be talking with you.
So I've been doing a little research because you and I have never really had a conversation. Like, we ran into each other that one time and had like a 5-minute talk. And so this will be like the longest conversation we've ever had. So I'm like, I want to learn more about what you do, and not just through your work. So I'm on your website, and the first thing that I noticed was the name. I love the name, Vintage Soul Productions. And I've heard you say things like you're an old soul, and you like listening to old music, and so it got me thinking about what that was. And so I was wondering, what have you learned from the past, and how does it inform who you are today?
That's a big question, a deep question.
I figure let's just get started. Why waste time?
Right. It's like, geez, there's so many areas of life, right? But definitely, I think, in being a theater person, all of our past experiences, if you're a theater person, will somehow lend itself to your current work. So whether that be writing, even directing, how you shape the characters and tell someone's story, you take these things from your past to create this art. And so Vintage Soul, that name, yes, it speaks to me being like this, being an old soul, and the work that we create, we love to dig into the past. So I work with a lot of different actors and other theater folks. It's just like a big network of folks that I've worked with in the past. And we just always do new and different projects. And sometimes I'll have folks work on workshops for me or with me. But make a long story short, always learning from the past. We can't grow as human beings unless we learn from our past, so doing new things with it, and just telling stories, telling old stories. I've done work on about Josephine Baker, a one-woman show, so that was like a healing experience for me as a performer, also a very challenging past, and kind of putting it on myself in the new, in the 2000s. And so in that way, that's kind of what we do, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I wonder if you could say more about the healing experience, or just generally like the healing that you feel that comes from your art.
So theater is I think all art forms are naturally cathartic, but theater in particular was my healing choice, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
I came out of a very, very tough, very strict religion, and there was a lot of healing that I needed upon leaving. It was like a severance, you know. And
Yeah.
so when I left that religion, I theater was the first place that I ran to. It kind of called me. And so once I took that on and was able to use my writing skills and my performing skills, and it was accepted and celebrated in that space,
Yeah.
I was all in. And that's been who I've been ever since, you know. And so anytime I'm creating, it's I'm healing some small little area in my world, in my life, something that I need healing, and I'll find it in the art that I'm creating at the time. I do different things. So the choreography, whether it be through movement, whether it be through the writing, whether it be through directing a piece, there's always something cathartic in it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm thinking of like these different things. Do you have a favorite? Let me ask you that. Directing, writing, choreography. I know it's like picking like your favorite child. I get it, but like if there's a thing that you find yourself like really, really drawn to, or not, how does that work for you?
The one thing that I can live, eat, breathe, sleep, and never get tired of is writing.
Okay.
Is writing. And it goes with movement for me. So
yeah,
music informs the writing. So I have to listen to music.
Got you. Okay. Oh, are you frozen or am I frozen? I can't tell.
I think Sharece is frozen.
Okay.
Can you see me?
There you go. Yes. See you.
Okay, yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the last thing I heard was music. You have to have music on when you're writing.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's helpful. Yeah, it's helpful. It puts me in that zone. But that's the writing is the number one thing for me. That's the thing that leads the train. It drives. That's the main thing that I love to do. Everything else follows after it. So the last thing on this train would be the acting and the performing, because there's so much prep work I have to do. I love doing it, but it's so much prep work. So
yeah, gotcha. Okay.
yeah.
What are you listening to right now? Like what music is what music's got you right now?
So I'm listening to a couple different things. So I just came fresh off of my husband's birthday party, and he sang the song "Sarah Smile" by Hall & Oates. So I'm in
Nice.
Hall & Oates mode right now. Repeat all the time. Wait for it. The song "Wait for It."
Yeah. Okay.
That song stuck in my head. And I've been listening to a lot of 2000s R&B lately.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just in that zone. Yeah. How about you?
Oh man, I'm working on a project where I am
I'm just.
I don't know. I think can you hear me, Sharece?
The connection. Now I can hear you. You're just frozen on my end.
Okay. All right. The connection is being a little funny. So I'm sorry. What was the very last thing that you said?
I said, how about you? What are you listening to?
Yes. Okay. All right. I started to answer that question and then I heard something else and I thought, wait, is she talking to me? I don't know. Okay. So here the thing I've been listening to, I've been working on this project. I'm going to be switching. I'm doing this thing where I'm I'm taking one sort of style of music and putting it in a totally different genre. And so I've been listening to a lot of music like that, music that, you know, was originally released as one sort of genre, and then someone else took it and made it something else. So the album that's got me right now is this album called The Invisible Man, which is an orchestral tribute to Dr. Dre.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
Okay. I have to look
Unbelievable. Yeah, look it up. It's by everyone. If you're listening, if you can hear my voice right now, check out the artist name is Sly Fifth Avenue. Sly Fifth Ave. And it is absolutely incredible. I have not been able to stop listening to this album for like 3 weeks now. It's a great album.
Sly Fifth Ave.
Sly Fifth Ave. Yeah. The name of the album is called The Invisible Man. So yeah, check it out. So you mentioned, you know, you had this sort of, if you'll pardon the term, you had this kind of exodus from religion, and you ran basically, or you were called. You said you felt this calling. You felt this pull to theater. So what was the first live theater you saw?
It was some local stuff. There were people who were doing local stuff, and I don't remember them because that part of my life, there was such a blur in that transition. So I don't remember exactly what I saw, but I know that I was going to New York often and watching a lot of like underground plays. I was in things like that. But it was all independent stuff. It wasn't like Broadway, anything like that.
Yep. Nice. I would be willing to wager that you may not remember what you saw, but do you remember how you felt?
Oh yeah, I was like, where has this been all my life? Because theater was definitely like taboo. You know, that theater was taboo in that religion. I was a Jehovah's Witness, so just full transparency, you know. And my experience was a very tough experience, but yeah, theater was a no-no. Like nobody, you would not be a Jehovah's Witness and be doing theater, like a full practicing baptized Jehovah's Witness doing theater. And so I never explored that. I didn't really know how that worked. I didn't know much about that, able to get a taste of that theater experience. I jumped right in. So that was pretty much how it went.
Yeah. Nice. So
okay.
Yeah, I can hear you. It's kind of breaking up, but like I'm getting like 90% of what you're saying. So it's coming in and out, but then you'll kind of catch up. And so anyway, we will do the best we can and continue to keep our fingers crossed that the internet gods will smile on us. Okay, so you had talked about how history and the past really informs your work and ends up kind of like showing up in your work in a lot of ways. And I'm curious about you and the way in which you show up in particularly the pieces that you write. What parts of you, I mean, like, I guess, are you ever surprised you see something that you've written and you're like, oh, actually that, like, that's a piece of me, or that's this conversation that I had just kind of like reheated in a different way. Like, does that happen for you? Yeah.
Absolutely. Pretty much every piece. And it's always after, it's never during, you know. I'm just going with whatever the characters are leading me to do and say. And then at the end, I'm looking back and I'm like, oh my God, that was this area of my life. I was going through this transition. I was feeling this, you know, especially the piece that really showcases a lot of those, you know, different experiences for me was Daisies on Heart. Helped me create that piece was Wildflower by New Birth, which, you know, is, you know, written in the 70s, but the piece takes place during the 1920s. Through my life, because it was my grandmother's favorite song, my grandmother on my father's side. And so even as a small child, my mom told me, you know, as a small child, she had that song on repeat. And I was like, that's interesting, because I did not. It shows up in the music. I mean, my father and my mother, they're both old school heads, love music. We love music. So I knew that song, but I didn't realize, you know, how much my grandmother loved it and played it so often.
Yeah.
And then there's a delay on my end. There's and also with that piece, all of the characters, they represent personality, and also some of them are going through things that I have gone through in different ways. You know, again, me coming out of that religion, here she is on a quest to find her sister, thinking that's the answer, you know, and then finds out it's not, you know, so a lot of that.
Yeah.
It's a reflection of self.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, and so this gets me also thinking, like, you know, so as I was flipping through your different works, your scripts, your different plays, there's the first like chunk of them are for children. Am I getting that right?
I have some kids plays, yes.
Okay.
And then I have stuff as well. So like on different monologues, plays, I have a new choreo poem that I've written that I put up there. But I also have kids plays that I've published as books with covers. So like here's an example of one: Benignia's Flowers, All Grown Up. And I'm just hoping that these will, you know, entice kids to read plays, read scripts, and get used to reading scripts. So
yeah.
And those I wrote when I back in 2009.
Okay. Yeah, those have been around for a while. You know, there's such power in story. Yeah, I mean, you know, like I'm just thinking about like even the way that our brains work as humans. We're actually sort of wired to really connect with and learn from story. And so I was thinking about that a lot as in terms of like the kind of power that your voice is able to wield through theater and through story, and the stories that you have chosen to tell, you know, seem very intentionally about like highlighting, you know, people of color, and I'm wondering how you think about that in the context of the stories that you write.
I always go for my own experience, and also keeping in mind like our like nuances and textures and things that I have grown up with. Just being authentic, you know. And I think it's important to, you know, to show these stories, because I think that people need to see themselves. it would be false. For example, about being very intentional about writing about white people. That wouldn't be my story. You know, like that's not my experience. While I've grown up, you know, I've grown up around a lot of white people. My mother is she is French, Polish, Algerian. You know, so it's just so I guess you would call her, you would say she's white. My experience, I am a person of color. I am a Black person, grew up around people of color, Black people. So this is my experience. And so I share those stories.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Eric, we have a question in the chat.
Oh, great. Okay. This is from Mr. Anderson Curtis. Anderson is asking, do you have any interest in exploring the intersection of art and mass incarceration?
It's mass incarceration is such a deep topic to explore, and I have touched some of it. It's not necessarily mass incarceration, but incarceration. Being behind bars, the different feelings and emotions that women have gone through. I have a book that I've recently helped someone publish. Carol Jones, her name's called Jazzy, You Were the Art on Magnolia Street. And all of the artwork and poems in this book have to do with that. And so she was someone who was 22 years, you know, just in and out of jail, in and out of the prison system. And I'm not unfamiliar with that life, not, you know, as far as family is concerned, a lot of family members. And then out of jail, my father in particular. And so, you know, I was really new to the story. And sometimes people are so quick to label someone a criminal and they don't know all much to a person. So in this way, I touched on it, but not so much mass incarceration. Maybe in the future I would. Definitely is drawn to that. So maybe in the future.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice. So this is a question that I ask artists, particularly as they're looking to kind of like make a business out of their art, right? If you were to talk to your younger self, you know, that self that just went to see that first live theater, that first live piece, and is feeling exhilarated and amazed, what advice would you give your younger self, or perhaps, you know, a younger person that may encounter this and wants to go be a playwright like you?
Yeah. I would not talk to myself back then. Oh, I don't know if you can hear me. Can you hear me now?
Hear you. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I would say nothing. And I'll tell you, organic experience. If I were to go back, I would be like, oh, you need to do this. You need to do that, you know, so that way you can avoid this thing. I won't be a good playwright with good life, rich experiences. Good, bad, ugly. You need all of that, you know, like all of that is what makes you who you are. And, you know, all of those bad things and all the happen if I went back and told myself, oh, don't do this and don't do, you know what I mean? So yeah, I think experience is what makes good art.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for that. What a great answer to that question. I haven't gotten that answer yet, and thank you. So that, I guess that brings me to this other question about business and about, like, you know, you had picked up a couple of the things and I understand you've done some self-publishing. You've got a couple of things out there. I checked you out on Amazon. So, you know, for all the good people listening, go find Sharece on Amazon. We'll drop the link in the chat. Buy up all her books and do all of that stuff. But how are you making it work? Like, what is the business of being a playwright?
So there's definitely a life outside of this, I think, dreamy idea of what people think a playwright is. This is what I think people think a playwright is, because this is what I thought when I first entered theater was, oh, they're sitting in Starbucks and they're writing and it's a dreary day. You know what I mean? Like, all day. And they can do this with no bills and,
Right.
you know, like,
Right. Yeah.
Somebody's funding them, and they, you know, people just go to their play because they know their name, and all of that is not real life for me, you know. So, and I've you know, come to realize that that's definitely not the life that I have, or, you know, I don't know if I would ever see myself having that life, but my life where I am today. You know, I definitely have always held like some sort of like jobby job. I call it a jobby job, you know, and that's usually in the public health and human services, because I'm very passionate about my community and making sure people are well as much as I can control. And then outside of that, doing all of my theater stuff. And even when I'm there, there's where I'm getting all my material, you know. So everything that how I work, you know, everything has to go together. So if I'm going to work somewhere, I have to make sure I can have that feeling of, yeah, I probably can get good material here and include this, you know, in a play in some way. And so that's kind of worked out in my favor. And I've done a whole bunch of different stuff in human services. So from being a direct support person, you know, working in the group homes and working with elderly, the disabled, to working in an office setting, doing coordinating and administrative stuff, being a community organizer, you know, that kind of thing. It flexes that muscle for me. But more so nowadays, I'm focusing on projects. So I am doing a lot of different projects and then trying with them. One thing that is kind of, you may win contests. Your submission may be selected for a theater and then they will pay you, you know, for the rights to use a piece. You know, so that's been, you know, cool. I think one instance that stands out to me where that was like a really exciting feeling for me was when Daisies on Harlem's Doorstep was selected by University of San Diego as, and I was named the winner of the, it's a long name, so forgive me, the African American Experience something something or other.
Name. Yeah. It is. I saw that, it is a long name. I was like, wait, is that the name of the whole thing? Like, it's
the Dr. Floyd Gaffney African American Experience Award, playwriting award.
Yes.
And it was really cool because it was $1,000 that they gave me. They flew me out there, you know, and I stayed in a hotel out there. They housed me, and I watched their students in their master's program perform the play, you know, as a reading. And it was just so cool. You know, it was really rewarding. And so, you know, in that way, you know, when we're talking about, you know, money, you know, like that's an example. Of a situation that can happen, and I'm growing, and I'm hoping that things will get to the point where I have placements in regional theaters and they're doing runs of my plays.
Yeah, for sure. Word. So I want to. So now I'm curious now about, like, what is this like? All right, I actually have a very specific question because I only know personally that I know of one other playwright, and that is a gentleman actually whose play I was in, and actually you were there. You came to see that show.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
the Three Kings.
Yes.
Yes, yeah. So you gotta give me some notes later. Well, I'll catch up with you later. You tell me how I did.
Yeah.
But
That was
one
cool
of the
meeting. Yeah, it was cool.
yeah, it was fun. My first time ever doing anything like that, and it was fun, and I had a good time, and the playwright was a friend of mine, so I was like, yeah, sure, why not? But one of the things that he said that I found interesting was that he learned stuff about his play and his characters from the way that we played them, from the way that we delivered the work and delivered the lines. And so I'm wondering, when you were sitting, you won this award, you're in, California, you're watching your work come to life. I wonder if you, or what you may have learned.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great question. I actually did have like a profound moment. So one of the characters, their description, I made them a person of color so that it would, give some flexibility. It would be interesting to see who would play this character. And when they chose somebody who was not a Black woman to play this part, it didn't hit the way it needed to hit for me,
Interesting. Yeah.
I was like, no, all of these characters to make complete sense. And like I said about nuance and texture, there's just, and it's not so much about the actor, it's that character and the things that the character is saying, it's, that really came full circle for me going there to see that. And then seeing someone who was not a Black person playing that role, it didn't sit right. I was actually uncomfortable after. I was like, I mean, she did a wonderful job as an actor. So it's not, to discredit her. It's just with the character, it's what the character needed. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. That's great. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. So in the interest of sharing, I'm looking at the time, it's 2:45, and I want to leave some space for you to, if there are things that you wanted to show, because of the technical difficulties, I had to log out and log back in. So the stuff that you would put in the chat is actually not in my chat anymore.
Okay.
So if there's something you'd like to show, I want to leave that space for you to be able to do that. And if we can talk about it if you like, or you want to show I just would like to give you that space. Sure.
Something that I think will be cool to mention is the Quick Quarantined Play Festival.
Yes.
So that's something that I came up with when COVID hit, and I realized this is going to be an at-home situation. Like, we're not going back to work. It is not going to be life as it was, and I can't be not doing theater. Like, how are we going to do this? How is this going to happen? So I just decided to form a festival, and I love the experience of being a part of 24-hour festivals live and in person. And so I found a way to do it virtually. And so that's why it's called the Quick Quarantine Play Festival, because playwrights have 24 hours to write their pieces, which they write one monologue for an actor. They're assigned 3, so they get 3 actors. So each monologue for the actors. And the actor has 24 hours to rehearse it, perform it, create this character. I work with Rob Esposito, who's a director here in New Haven, and he helps them and coaches them along if they need that support, the second set of eyes. And we released their performances on Saturday. And so we did 12 runs of that. And all of the compilations, you can find that on VintageSoulProductions.com. So you'll see all of them. And then I'm moving into now having rounds sponsored so that we can pay actors and potentially playwrights from previous rounds to focus on a specific thing. So like We did a round called Black Voices, and that was round 10. That was a Black Voices round, and it was sponsored, and it was amazing. We were able to provide honorariums for all the actors, all the playwrights, and they created really good work. And what's cool about this festival is it's really like going to the gym. It's an exercise for everyone involved. And so they get like a seed, a little kernel of an idea from what they create off of an actor. Just like you said, he found something new after watching you guys play it. It's the same in this situation. Yeah. And so they have the actor as the muse, you know, and so they get these cool ideas after working and collaborating with each other, this devised theater work, and they make new pieces. And the thing that I think is so awesome, what's come out of that, is people have written full plays now off of ideas that they've gotten from the festival. There's a web series that's being created right now. Yeah, Lyra Lynn Kay. So if anyone wants to look her up, she has a web series called Bad Jokes for My Family. It's a very it's a definitely a satire comedic piece. A lot of insult, a lot of and a lot of exploring you know what you know old school Americans think or have thought, you know, and would only say amongst their family, but maybe not in public, you know. So it's cool. And a lot of other works have been created and a lot of connections have been made. People have gotten gigs outside of it because they've participated in the festival and people were able to see their work. So I'm really, really proud of what we've done. Now we're moving into, you know, I've sent out a letter requesting sponsorship. Hopefully we get interest, but for Carol's book, Jazzy, You Were the Art on Magnolia Street, to have people perform these poems as monologues. So that should be really cool. Yeah, if we can, you know, that's something that we're working on next. So that's our next project for the festival. We were on TV. There's a couple of links. So when you go to the website, you'll see all of the work that we did for the festival thus far. So, yeah.
Incredible. And actually, I'm remembering now, I said I thought I only knew one playwright, but actually, yeah, I know my guy, Steve Driffin, who will be featured on this series. I'm not sure if he's the next one, but he's coming up pretty soon. Actually, I think he is the next one, because I think I remember thinking like September is going to be the theater month. So I think Steve is up next. So so that's great. Excellent. Well, Sharece, do you mind taking more questions from anyone who may have some? Okay. Folks, if anybody has any questions, feel free to unmute and ask Sharece what's on your mind.
Sharece, it's Anderson. Thank you so much for coming on. How are you?
Sure, good. How are you?
Good. I was introduced to the world of theater through the Community Ambassador Program at the New Haven Free Public Library.
Oh,
that was about
nice.
5 or 6 years ago. So I've been very interested since then. But I was going to go buy your book before you mentioned the monologue piece. So is that only professional actors that can audition for the monologues from the book that you just showed? Or
they are all for this one?
Yes.
Yeah, so we will have, so they should have acting experience. Yeah,
okay.
They should. It's not that they have to be, and then the question is, what's a professional actor, right? So, you know, people who've had experience, and all who, you know, have had a taste of theater in their life, you know, so they would be the cast for it.
Well, you know, I'm quite accomplished at public speaking, and I feel I've been acting all my life anyway, just to get to where I am today in some regards. So, you know, I would love the opportunity to give it a shot.
I can't see anything. It's frozen.
Oh, We can hear you, Sharece. Can you hear us?
Oh, now I'm back. I
There
can
we
hear
go.
you.
Okay, great. Yes. Okay. So Curtis wants to crack at it. Maybe you guys can connect via email or something and figure out if that is something that's possible. Can folks get in touch with you via your website, Sharece?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Great. Does anybody else have any questions for Sharece?
The volume went out on my end.
Oh, can you hear me, Sharece?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Now I can hear you.
Yes. And it looks like there may be a question.
Hi, Eric. My name's Anjali. Hi, Sharece.
Hi.
Hi. I just happened to sign on to this, and I'm really glad I did. It's nice to meet all of you and just to hear your story and your journey, and to also know it's also reassuring. I've been in public health and my dance art for a very long time, and it's been very frustrating, and I keep trying to find ways to let it go, but it's so supportive as well. So
Yeah.
it's tough. You only have so much time is what I tell myself, but it sounds like you've accomplished so much. And I just also have to appreciate myself if I look back and, you know, what I've been able to do in my own artistic career with the job.
Yeah.
But I just have to say, you know, hearing that, it struck me just because of how much really you have accomplished. And so just hats off to you and kudos and thanks for what you're doing and for sharing your journey and story with us. But it seems like you just have this energy that just pushes, so personally, I feel like I have a lot of hangups, and I'm not a writer, I'm a dancer. And, you know, what kind of dancer has hangups about moving her body? But, you know, this is one. I don't know if you could just speak to anything where you feel like you've overcome some sort of blockages or hangups as an artist and how that might have looked for you. Thanks.
Yeah. Oh, that's such a great question.
What a great question. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. I think art, as we know, is a very vulnerable experience, right? So anytime you're creating art, you're being vulnerable. Back in 2009, 2010, I embarked on mime work. So I was doing mime, and like, I know like that's something that people make fun of. They're like, what? That's weird, you know? But I did it because I was trying to teach the kids how to be more expressive. And then also, like, I grew up around deaf people. So there's this, you know, me needing to express that. So anyway, make a long story short, I did it because I had to. It was this feeling of I have to show them how to be more expressive. One, because I want to connect with them more, right? And with the students. And two, this is an art form that is like kind of like the start of learning how to be an actor. And so I was taking classes, I was teaching, I was doing all this stuff at the same time. And even though people kind of made fun of it, I knew they were making fun of it on the low. They didn't say it to me, but I knew they were. I knew I had to do it. And if I didn't do it, I wouldn't be able to reach them the way that I needed to. And it ended up paying off because I found myself on a plane heading to LA to be in Faith Evans' music video. So wow. That example, yeah, that kind of set me up for life with this mindset. There's always going to be people who don't get it, who don't like, who make fun, you know what I mean? But I can't be worried so much about that when I know something is so right for me right now. If it's so right for me right now, I just need to do it. Maybe it's just I need to get it out of my system. Maybe that's all it is. You know, either way, it's going to be for my benefit. There's gonna be a payoff in the end. I just know for a fact because my heart is calling for it. It's just saying I need to do it. So yeah, just going with that instinct, regardless of what people think, because I think that's part of the fear. And then just like own personal hangups, like, oh, if I do this, then it's going to affect me professionally. You know, people in my other life, you know, this human services and public health life, they're going to judge what I do, or it's going to affect my work. I can't care about that, because at the end of the day, those two things need to come together for me anyway. You know, so if where I'm working is not the right place for me at that time, the right work will find me. You know, I just feel like whatever your intention is, it's going to be met with what is supposed to be.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah. Wow. I love that, you know, the thing that I'm pulling from that, Sharece, is this, oh, Sharece is frozen. Sharece, can you hear me? Oh, internet, work with us.
Yeah,
well,
Eric, she's frozen for me as well.
Okay. All right. Well, we're closing in on time. I was just going to say the thing that I hear in what Sharece said is that, you know, when one's purpose sort of is more, you know, kind of more powerful than the blocks, than the barriers. It makes it a lot easier to kind of move through some of those challenges and some of those, you know, discomforts, insecurities. So that feels really powerful to me. I did notice that the quarantine plays are available on the website, the www.vintagesoulproductions.com, which is also in the chat. So so if folks want to head over there. Oh, it looks like we got Sharece back.
Yeah, I'm like, just completely clicked me out. I'm on my phone now, so I hope I answered her question. I hope that was okay.
Yeah, it looks like you got through. Oh yes, she says yes. Beautiful discussion and thank you. Yes.
Okay, cool.
She left that in the chat. And then I started to answer this question because I thought I saw them, but let me just verify with you, Sharece. The quarantine plays, are they available on your website?
Yes. Yep. Yes. It says QQ Play Fest on my website. Yep. Quick Quarantine Play Festival. And then if you go to the Vintage Soul Productions YouTube channel, you just type in Vintage Soul Productions, you'll see all of the rounds. So there were 12.
Great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, cool. Wow. And you're like crystal clear now. Of course, it's like the end of the call. That's all right. Okay, so I guess I do have this like one final question, another sort of one of the questions that I ask everybody. What question did I not ask you that I should have asked?
I think you asked everything that you felt like you should have asked, and that should be good. That should be right.
You have the absolute best answers. All right, this is fantastic. Seriously, I think you said like 3 things that I like. These questions that I ask all of the folks, and your answers are just totally unique and wonderful. So Sharece, thank you so much for what you're doing, the work you're doing, your writing, your work in bringing artists together, your work in clearing a path, not only for people of color, but particularly like young people, bringing young people into this work, which I think is so incredibly important, especially when we consider the power that story has, not only to heal, but to help inform us about who we are and where we're going, and this kind of space that we find ourselves in this moment is really an important one to capture and to push, to be on the front edges of, and art and theater has always done that. You know, there's lots of ways that things could be better, but I think I think you're being part of that solution in what you're doing. So thank you for that.
Thank you. That's a huge compliment. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. And thank you for joining us. And yeah, I guess we'll close here. Thank you so much, Sharece. This has been so great. I'm glad we've had our first official conversation in front of an audience for everybody to see. And I hope it won't be our last.
For sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure. Oh, and check out Sly Fifth Ave.
Oh, definitely. I will.
You're gonna enjoy it. Everyone, check out Sly Fifth Ave. It's incrable. You're not even
The
gonna believe
Invincible
it when you hear
Man.
it. The Invisible Man. Yes. Yeah. All right.
Cool.
All right. Have a good afternoon, everybody. The next, I actually don't have the date off the top of my head, but the next person we'll be talking to will be the magnanimous Mr. Steve Driffin.
Yeah.
Just a fantastic human being with like, I think that guy has got like at least a 1,000,000-watt smile. And so
yeah.
at least. So I'm looking forward to having a conversation with him. Join us next time. Until then, be well, take good care of yourselves and each other, and see you next time.